Hi guys, welcome to this week's edition of Business as Usual. My name is Iqbal Javaid and I head up our collaboration practice for Cisilion. You'll be delighted to know that today I'm joined by the usual suspects in Craige Winter-Nolan, new business sales director, and Rob Quickenden, our chief strategy officer. Good morning, guys. So we're now 3 weeks into these webinars, and actually we've been quite overwhelmed by the amount of attendance, views, and comments received so far. And we really hope that you guys are finding these sessions useful, as genuinely our objective here is to share our experiences and insights into the industry where we are working, potentially working even more closely with organizations than we ever have before. Now, we started off 3 weeks ago discussing the impact of COVID-19 and how organizations have had to quickly adapt and change how they can leverage and extend their infrastructure and services to accommodate the needs of their users and customers. Moving on to last week, our focus shifted to cost reduction and how organizations can leverage some great finance offers that Craige talked through on the last session, where you with Cisco you can potentially spread and potentially defer payments to invest in technology today. And if you didn't see it, I encourage you guys to go and have a listen. There's some great tips there from Craige. In addition to that, we also spoke about how we're helping many customers in re-architecting and consolidating the consumption in cloud services like Azure to save tens, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of pounds. So this week we felt naturally the next thing for us is to kind of discuss where we are seeing organizations are and could potentially reinvest those short-term savings to either increase business resilience, prepare for future growth, and more importantly, to gain that competitive advantage. The guys will run through some examples of what organizations are starting to do already around developing a digital workplace strategy, looking at how customers can use digital channels to better engage with their customers, looking at innovation, all really ultimately to maintain and grow those sales activities. So I guess, Craige, I know your team have been very busy over these past few weeks, helping customers during this difficult time, and we've talked about the challenges seen so far. But what are you starting to see now, as in terms of what organisations are talking to us about?
Thank you, Iqbal, and morning, chaps, as well. Thanks, everyone. I just want to quickly echo, Iqbal, what you said. It's lovely to see how many people are engaging with this. So keep your comments and all of that coming. It really helps us drive where we're taking these sessions. So thank you very much. What am I seeing? Crikey, it's madness out there for sure. We're certainly in many respects busier than we've ever been, with a very mature or advanced, I'd say, set of conversations and set of opportunities that we're seeing. Like you said, digital workplace strategy is huge. We're seeing clients in the hospitality sectors really pivot their business models to focus on e-commerce, and naturally what they need for that is more cloud computing, more accessibility, not only to their users but their clients, and what comes with that is enhanced security. So we're seeing a lot of people pivot from traditional industries where it involves someone going into their venue. But we're also seeing the more traditional industries, legal, finance, insurance. Those guys, to me, appear to be looking to still consolidate very much their expenditures, and the way we're seeing the insurance sector do that is take on additional support from the vendors. There's a lot less risk, according to an insurer, to place their support models with the vendors themselves. So we're seeing a big uptake in things like service full coverage and other products like that, which is enabling them to have a foundation for innovation. And then customers that are a little more advanced, and I'm thinking of a couple of different law firms here that we're helping right now. One is a firm that rushed out, got themselves a trial for remote working, for a solution. All of the lawyers and partners decided that this is great. We can maintain the same amount of billable hours while we're working from home. This is fantastic. So they're now that customer has almost accelerated their business case now to see that they want to do this business now. They want to turn on these trials. They want to actually get the full benefit of it, which is obviously fantastic. But yeah, moving on from those things, digital workplace strategy, not only making sure people are able to do their work, but we're also hearing now how are people engaging, how are people performing, and how are people finding the situation, and how is their wellness and well-being. So we're certainly starting to get asked a lot of questions about the analytics, the productivity, visibility that we can get as well. And I know, Rob, you could probably wax lyrical all morning about that as well. So I'll hand over to you on the visibility side, because it's pretty special what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, thanks, Craig, and again, hi to everyone listening. And yeah, I mean, it's been an absolute it has been an absolute crazy month. I mean, we've had a really good month as an organisation, which I guess is good. And I think what we're seeing is every organisation over the last 2 months has become a digital company. Right, every bank has become a digital company, whether they like it or not. I've seen, just personally with the banks I use, huge improvements in the online services in 2 months. Just the kind of stuff that all the new boys were doing that now the traditional banks are starting, because they've had to. There's no publications anymore. Everything is online. Cinemas are now streaming services over kind of premium on-demand services. And I think for us, what we're seeing within organisations is probably 3 things, and this kind of touches very much on what you said, Iqbal, and what you said, Craig. And I think the first one is about putting people first, and that's just that's customers and internal people. And I think one of the things that a lot of people are suffering from is almost kind of remote working from home fatigue, in that it's very easy now, because for most people where they work is the same as where they live and bring up their kids and everything else, and so it's very easy to spend all day working. And I think so there's a real discipline piece needed around just encouraging people and helping people to understand how much they're working, who they're interfacing with, how they're interacting, and are they being efficient rather than just busy. So and there are some great tools out there, for those of you that use Office 365, which I'm guessing is probably most of you. There's some great tools at the user disposal called My Analytics, which is really great for just helping you understand the people that you are keeping in contact with, people that maybe you're losing contact with because they're not the people that you generally talk to around projects and deals and things, and also of course your customers and clients that you may be talking to less and more. There's then, as you said, Craig, tools that help you do that on an organisational level, and it's not about spying on people and making sure people are working and stuff, although I'm sure people will use them for those things. But it's actually about checking in with people and making sure that your team are happy, that they're working well. There's no conflicts in those things, and of course you can do that via virtual one-to-ones and video and things, but actually just kind of keeping an eye on how people are responding, and are people working ridiculous numbers of hours, or actually are there other parts of the business that seem to be struggling to kind of work, and actually their productivity might be down. So there's some really good tools out there to help, and we've certainly been helping organizations just really know those tools are there. So again, for the people on the call, if you've not looked at My Analytics in 365 and Workplace Analytics and other tools like that, I'd certainly encourage it. I think the next thing is then about being customer centric, right, which kind of builds on to again a point you raised earlier, Iqbal, and certainly covered last week, is around we're seeing much more interactions with our customers. People can't go to stores and shops anymore, but they still want services. So this kind of video consultations, video buying, looking at houses remotely, working with I'm having a new kitchen, or supposed to be having a new kitchen built when we can get supplies. That's all just gone online. Everything is virtual. I've had walkthroughs of how my kitchen might look, walkthroughs of all different worktops and things, all online, which is just something that I probably wouldn't have felt comfortable doing a few months ago, because I would have wanted to go into a store. Massive. I think the final point that Iqbal, I know this is something that your team have been hugely engaged with, is that advancing digital workplace strategy piece. And I think, everybody organisation that we're working with recognises that, whatever they were doing, they need to accelerate. The organisations that we work with, and actually we recorded, I guess we can share, we recorded a video podcast with a customer yesterday about how they're coping with COVID. And it was actually really good to hear, because we've been working with that organisation for several years on their digital transformation strategy. So actually they just, it kind of wasn't really an impact for them. Everything they do is agile, the way they work is agile, they've got mobile devices, everyone's encouraged to kind of work from home. So they just kind of slipped into it, outside of the physical people thing we touched on. Whereas a lot of other organisations that I know Iqbal and your team are working on, are really trying to make sure that people can get through this to the kind of new normal approach of what that's going to look like. And I think we are going to see a lot more people not wanting to come back to the office, not wanting to travel through London. This lockdown, however it appears and whatever the kind of government's gradual exit strategy is going to be a long time. And so therefore this change has to happen now. You can't, it's not about planning for the next COVID. This is now. So we are seeing huge amounts of effort and innovation from organisations. We're seeing rise of the community developer internally, just trying to help people do things more efficiently in a world that's now separated. So Iqbal, I don't know whether you want to.
Absolutely. I think just going back to, for me, there's two things that I'm right now around the next kind of trend is absolutely defining what that digital workplace looks like more strategically, and defining that. I would say my team over the last couple of weeks have been busy, if not every day, every other day, running through workshops to define an end-to-end strategy across the workplace. So that's understanding people, processes, and technology, and how can all of these things come together, using the blueprint that we then create as part of these workshops to then define the future investment. Because that's a lot of organizations haven't done that. They've just either shadow IT have gone and invested in things, or multiple solutions have been pulled together to make and formulate a digital workplace strategy, and now I'm seeing organizations are genuinely starting to take a step back to take a look at how can we do this properly this time around, and make sure we do make the best of the investment. And then come things like understanding what's the right license agreement that they need to go work with, the right partner to work with to develop and execute against that strategy. So that's, for me, that's ongoing. The other big thing for me is innovation. Rob, you mentioned right now everyone's gone digital, right? So that's a given. Now, innovation will help organizations to stay competitive, but ultimately they are now refining the services that they offer, and essentially it creates new value as well. So we will see some organizations flourish, and they will definitely reap to benefit from this. And personally, some of the customers that I'm working with, I work closely with a number of law firms right now, and they are right now in the process of redefining how they can use innovative ways in which they can leverage technology to build more hours. I know, Craig, you mentioned this earlier. This is very much top on the agenda. Actually, they're starting to realize they have more engagement with their clients today than they ever have before. That results in more billable hours. That's a great thing. And in addition to that, creating more digital channels where they can share content securely, because that's obviously a major thing for law firms and their clients, to being able to kind of communicate and collaborate in a digital way. One particular law firm right now are looking at trialing Cisco's Desk Pro devices. Great device to deliver a very professional face-to-face collaboration experience where you can do everything all from a single device. So from a law firm perspective, those are the kind of things I'm seeing. Likewise, we have a number of contact center customers. I did a podcast yesterday actually with Cisco's contact center lead to discuss what we're seeing in the industry. I'd encourage you guys to have a quick look at that. But ultimately, what we are now seeing is those traditional customer of ours who have only engaged with their customers using voice and maybe web, are starting to now look at how they can introduce more digital channels. They want customers to be able to engage with them through any media. So whether that's Skype or WhatsApp or Twitter, how can we try and bring all of these conversations into a single platform where they can provide the best possible service to their customers, all securely, all audited, all recorded, for auditing and kind of billing purposes. So yeah, those for me, those are the kind of couple of things that I've seen out there. I don't know, Rob, if you want to elaborate on anything else that you've seen, that you're seeing organisations now focus on moving forward.
Guys, I was just going to quickly chip in, Rob, if you don't mind, with a question to you both. You both touched on that people are sort of stopping the rush and trying to take stock of where they are. How important do you think that is? Because one thing's for sure, that there's a tidal wave of emotion, if anything else, and pressure pushing people down certain roads. How important is that they do stop, just take a breather, speak to experts, define the vision, define their own vision, create a vision, define a strategy, and effectively buy themselves some headroom to spur on some innovation faster going forward?
Yeah, it's a good question, Craig. I think, and listen, I think nobody knows what we're coming through right now. I think there's lots of speculation. I think different governments have got different views on things. There were some really interesting discussions had this week in some of the banking sectors where they've got thousands of people in offices. When you look at like Canary Wharf, for example, these HSBC, for example, have got literally hundreds, thousands of people in the same office, and a lot of these organisations are looking at this and saying, that just feels a bit crazy now. Why are we doing this? Why are we dragging people all into one location to kind of all work? It's just not efficient from a cost perspective, not efficient from a kind of people life balance. And I think we're going to see a lot more pop-up hubs. I think organizations will probably have more locations but smaller, or leverage more things like WeWork offices and those kind of things, just so that people can get together and work because people like going to work. But that changes everything. That changes the whole dynamics of how people interface and work. And I think we've seen this massive rise of video as an example. I think video is going to be, it's just going to get bigger, more pervasive than anyone's ever really thought about. It will open the doors, I think, for some new players in that field. I think it's everyone sees it as a big competition. Everyone's talking about Zoom and there's Slack and Teams and WebEx and all those kind of things. And I think some of that will kind of stabilize. I think it's therefore important for people to remember the strategy, and it goes back to what we were saying on the very first webinar about these kind of point solutions that have been chucked in to kind of deal with crisis mode. Now is the time to start unpicking those things and making sure what you're doing is strategy. We've seen organisations deploy, 1,000-seat organisations deploy Teams very, 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 very quickly, for example, or roll out, WebEx very, very quickly because they've had to. But it's been their strategy anyway, which is good, right? Because they've just been advancing their own strategy forward. The thing I think we've seen is if that is now what normal is going to be, then making sure people can use the technology in the most efficient way is also really, really important. So we are doing a lot of work with organisations, and a lot of this stemmed actually from what we've been doing with the NHS. So we do so many of these, I can't lose track of what we've talked about, but the Microsoft, for example, have given Teams to everybody in the NHS, which is great. We've been doing a load of work with the NHS around adoption services. So we've been providing, so we have an adoption and change management arm of our business, and we've been working quite closely with something like 30, I think it's 25, 30 different NHS trusts now, just to help them get the best out of the products, make sure people know how to use the products properly, because a lot of organizations are rolling this stuff out and they're literally just figuring it out for themselves and doing it wrong, and I hate to say doing it wrong, but they're not using the products the way that they should be used efficiently. And it's not because they're hard to use, it's because there's not a right or wrong way of doing it. You're gonna have a way that works for the business. So we're seeing a huge amount of demand around how we help organizations with online learning content, bite-sized training, and actually that change management piece, both from a technology angle, but also back to what we said before about how you work remotely efficiently and work from home efficiently. And Craig, I don't know whether you wanted to, whether that answers your question actually, Craig, or not.
Yeah, no, it does. No, it absolutely does. And enabling that is a challenge for people, isn't it, at scale? I think giving people the tools real fast to use them has happened really well. I think there's probably not a CIO around who isn't a little bit surprised in secret at how well that's gone. But now, I mean, just us this morning, we were having this conversation, prepping for today. We had meeting notes in a channel over there. We had meeting notes over there, and even us as experts, we sometimes forget the basics of how to adopt these technologies, because adopting technology means that you're using it, and if you're using it, you're getting a return on investment. So absolutely agree with you. Agree with you, Rob. You mentioned the.
I was going to jump in there, Craig. I think you covered two words there: using it and adopting it, right? And I think people talk about adoption and people talk about usage and those kind of things, and everyone loves to talk about, I mean, again, Cisco and Zoom and Microsoft keep shouting about numbers. I think Microsoft announced a couple of days ago they're seeing on average 4.1 billion meeting minutes a day. That's loads. That's meetings. That's not people properly consuming the technology in the way it's supposed to be. So I think usage and adoption are two different things. I think, yes, there's lots of usage, but is it being adopted and used in the right way, I think is key. So just wanted to touch in on that one.
No, just to kind of step in there. I think, again, you want to take a step back from that step in understanding who your people are and what their jobs are, to then build an adoption program around your users, rather than just going with a vanilla training program that fits all. Because we've seen, organizations try that. They'll build training content or videos, which is very generic, but doesn't suit everybody. And we're seeing that right now, working with a law firm who are fully deploying WebEx meetings and teams across the business. But what the partners' needs are different from people in IT or the back office or HR. So I think once that's fully defined, you can then start to build a relevant adoption program, and that's very much what we're doing. In terms of the kind of portal services that we deliver, we'll build a bespoke platform to ensure that there is a learning program for every user. So when whoever it is logs onto this training content, can see already that this training will directly impact the way they work. So yeah, just to kind of finish off that. I know we will be focusing on this topic more in the coming weeks, but I think it's good to kind of end on that.
Yeah, you're right, and I think we've had a couple of questions in actually about adoption, and I think actually it makes sense. We always after these sessions think about the next topic, and I think it's evident from some of the questions coming in the chat window that I think our next session will probably be around adoption and change. I think it's actually a really important topic. So I think we'll take that as we'll take feedback, but I think that's what we'll do on the next one.
I've got to say, chaps, you've both had a $1 million question here from Jeremy. Do you think this will become the new normal, or if not, what will that look like? I'm inclined to tell you not to answer, because it's quite a valuable answer, I'm sure. But over to you guys.
Iqbal, do you want to take that one?
I think, yeah, of course. I think there's no right or wrong answer here for sure. But what this has proved is how resilient people are and how well we are coping with this new normal that we're currently experiencing. Now it's a case of whether technology is holding us back or helping us flourish. And I think with most organizations I'm seeing, they are now, taking full advantage of what the technology offers for this to now become the new normal. So I think there's an opportunity for us to create what new normal is, and organizations have the flexibility. So this might not be right for everybody, but I think now no longer technology is holding people back. It's up to businesses how they want to operate, what they want to define the new normal as being.
That was not only a strong answer, but quite a thoughtful, insightful one, Iqbal, and that puts the onus back on us. We can create our own normal. Rob, what do you reckon, mate?
Well, I think to complement that, I think is and I absolutely agree with you. It does, and I think, but there's a big if, right? If that digital transformation journey has been thought about, and if the infrastructure and everything that organization needs to do to drive that kind of mindset moves. And that again is not only about rigid technology services. So yes, it's about things like, does your virtual infrastructure scale, is cloud the right thing, all those other things, but it's also the mindset and the encouragement and what you allow your employees to do, because systems that are generally deployed, so whether it's a CRM or a contact center or an email, whatever it might be, is generally has always been an IT project. And everyone's talked about for years about, the line of business is actually the buyer and the influencer anymore. And I think that is going to finally happen in an unprecedented scale as well. I think what we're going to see is, people in the business that have done things next to each other, or asking people to do things, that kind of lack of process that's kind of worked because people are together now isn't there. And we're seeing this already just internally in our own organization of, this is crazy. Why don't we have a process to do this? Why can't we start putting some automation and flow and things in place that make these things happen? Why can't we get data from here and move it over there? And so and go back to that point, I think employees will become a lot more empowered to help influence and shape what that digital transformation looks like for their organization, because they know the problems that they have and they're the ones that can make things smarter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm conscious we're about to wrap up. There's a question I've seen: can existing infrastructure cope if we move to a flexible way of working immediately post-COVID? And I think that comes back to the whole building that strategy to ensure that your infrastructure can cope with the new normal. And we're seeing certainly, from Microsoft and Cisco's perspective, there's a strategy to help customers adopt cloud better to be able to cope with what post-COVID brings. And certainly we're helping customers along those lines.
Absolutely. It's a very general question. Thanks for sending it in, Brian. I think the answer is, can existing infrastructure cope? Well, let's hope so, mate, and good luck. But the right thing to do is as the guys have been saying, get that strategy in place, do a review of the current infrastructure, define what your new normal, your own vision of your new normal looks like, and get the expertise in and make it happen. I'll let you wrap up, Iqbal.
Yeah, thanks guys for your time. Really appreciate everybody joining. Hopefully you found this useful. Our next topic will be focusing on adoption, but we'll be sending out more details. But thanks to you, Rob and Craig. Hope to see you guys soon.
Pleasure.
Cheers, everyone.
Pleasure. Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.